So in this next texture creation, what we're going to use is some crayons, just ordinary crayons. You can use any wax crayons that are lying in your house. So here the crayon will act as a resist, and you can make some wonderful creations using the crayon and watercolor. So we're going to paint a flower here. So I'm starting with the center. So I'm using brown color crayon. And to the brown color I'm adding some specks of black. And using my yellow to paint, draw some petals. And also use some orange. Now using my watercolor, I'm going to give it a background, and you'll see that wherever we have put the crayon, it's going to resist, and that portion will not get covered with the watercolor that we use. Just putting some more darker orange color. Using some sap green, I'm just going to go over there. Let this dry, and you will see that the crayon which we used has formed a resist, and it remains like that, and you can freely paint over it without any problem. The next technique is using a white wax, or you could even use a candle like this. So both these will, this is a white crayon and this is a white candle. Both these again, because the wax will act as a resist and leave the whites of the paper, leaving the whites of the paper. So you could paint freely, but when you use white, normally we will not be able to see it so much, so keep your finger there. So here we'll try and paint an leaf, an autumn leaf maybe. So I'm just going to put some highlights, scratching with my candle. eyeballing it. So keeping my finger there. You could either use the candle or the white crayon, and just use the tip so you don't get too large marks. And now we can use any color, so we'll start with yellow. Just paint around it. Notice how wherever we have put the wax, it's remaining white. Using a darker color here so it's more visible. There you have your leaf, and after it's dry, I usually go and paint and draw the veins with my black pen. Of course, you have to wait for it to dry completely. Here we'll just give a highlight and paint some icons. So now I'm using just a dot of the white and scratching here. I'm just going to use some burnt umber. With the darker color going under the So you can use these in your greeting cards, or to make quick illustrations where you want highlights of white. And here are some examples. So here I painted some autumn leaves of different colors and some acorns, and these are great to make quick illustrations for thank you cards or any greeting card or bookmarks as well. So that's how you use the crayon and the wax, the candle. So we'll move on to the next texture that I use a lot in my paintings, and that is using a piece of credit card like this. Cut an old credit card which you're going to throw away into small pieces and keep it in your box. So these are great to create textures. Say for example, for a tree, bark of a tree. We can start with some yellow ochre. And drop in some other colors like burnt umber or burnt sienna. I'm also adding some cobalt blue. Now give it a few minutes, but not if it is dry, the credit card will not work. So it shouldn't be too dry. There should be some moisture. Using one side of the flat side of the smaller side, I'm going to bring out some highlights on the tree by pressing it and moving the pigment to one side. So as you can see, a nice texture comes on the side of the tree, and you can do this for the branches as well. Now just below the tree, if you want to show some grass like or something growing here, so again I'm just putting some color here. It's yellow ochre. And some darker colors. And while the paint is still a little wet, you can drag out your grass shapes. By just scratching gently onto the wet paint. And if you want to show more white area, you can press it a little harder and you get you can even draw with this tip of the, you can draw some more markings if you like. Scratch out some markings on the trunk part. Now the other tool which I love to use along with my credit card is my wooden toothpick. I use the back part of the toothpick which is slightly blunt and rounded. Just dip the end into some water first and then into your colors. Twirl it around so you have some browns, and you can make small, very thin shapes with it. It could be grass or branches or whatever, but just turn the toothpick around in all directions. You can even put some dots. So the broken lines that the toothpick can form gives a very natural look, and you can get some really thin lines as well. The same can be used near the branches to get very thin branches growing out of the main branch. So these are the two tools that you require to make these kind of branches, or for trees. You could use them very effectively. Now the last texture that I want to create is using my sea sponge. It's a small piece of sponge, and these are really nice to make floral shapes, or any tree with a lot of flowers in it and buds. So just take your sponge and dab some colors into it. So you don't have to wet the sponge. So I'm putting some yellow, and maybe some purple. Onto my sponge. Now hold it upside down and just don't press too hard, depending on how you want the flowers to look. If you press too hard, you'll get bigger shapes. So just turn it in all directions. So you get these very natural looking shapes. And as they dry, you could put some darker colors over it. You don't need a lot of color for this, and don't use too much of water either. Just enough to get some nice shapes. So this could be make a tree with some flowers on it, and then you can draw the trunk. So there you have your tree with some flowers and leaves, and you could use some green if you like and dab in some green colors inside the tree if you like. So I'm just going to leave it like that and not meddle with it too much. So after it dries, you get these, you can make out some nice shapes which the sponge has created, and that's an easy way to make trees, fuller trees with lots of leaves and flowers. Now, once your leaf is dry, or your candle is dry, you can draw over it using your this is a waterproof gel pen, and you can just draw some veins if you like, but make sure that the underneath paint is dry. This is an optional thing. There you have your leaf is complete. Now I'm going to remove the cling wrap that we had put earlier. This is what it has created. The salt has created this texture, and once everything is completely dry, you can remove the masking tape, so you get your you can even label each one. So this is a wet on wet texture. This is salt, using salt. This is with cling wrap. This is using your Q-tip. This is with the crayons. This is with the white candle or white crayon. This is with your credit card and toothpick, and this is with your sea sponge like that. So you get it like this, but I just made a small piece for myself. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson on creating textures, and try it out on your own with other colors if you like.